So far we have learned how to make the routes or the navigation. Then we learned how to create a form in the student register component. And then we learned how to create the student model in which we created the schema for the collection. And we created a student model in which we mapped the collection student infos with the student schema, just the student schema, which we just created here. And in the MongoDB Atlas, we created a project student information system map. Inside that we created a student cluster. Inside that we created a database student DB, and we made the collection student infos. And this collection student infos, this is what we have mapped in this student model. So this collection student infos mapped with this student schema. So now we will learn how to create a file on the server, similar to what you did in PHP MySQL. You make a form, HTML form, or the form runs on the client side, and when you submit the form data, it is received by the PHP code on the server. So here, instead of PHP code, we will be using our JavaScript on the server also. Let me go and create a file on the server. So inside the source folder, I have a server folder inside which I will keep all my files which are to be executed on the server. We already made a student model in this student.js file, and now I will create the file, let's say index.js, which will receive the requests from the client. So in this file, since we are using the MERN stack, so any server-side code, in any server-side code, I will have to include my Express framework. So I will import Express from the framework Express. So we have a package Express. I will also import Mongoose from package Mongoose. Now in the student.js, when we created the student model, there also we imported Mongoose. And in this file, we use the Mongoose package method schema to create a schema for our collection, and we use the model method of the package Mongoose to map the collection or the table with the schema we just created here. In this file, we will use Mongoose to connect our server page, this index.js page, to the MongoDB database on the MongoDB Atlas. So the next thing I will do is import the data model which we created in the student.js file. So import, the name of the model is student model. So I'll copy from here from student.js. I will also import course from the package course. This will allow our APIs to be accessed from any origin or any domain. Now I will create the app, Express app. So I'll create a variable, constant variable, and I'll give the name of the application as app. You can give any name, but if you see most of the books, they use this name. So const app is equal to, now the name of my app will be app. So now I have to use this app. Should use this line will enable us to process our JSON data, because the API is always return the JSON data. So we have to include this line. And then we also have to use, this app should use CORS. So this will enable the use of CORS for your application. The next thing I will do is make the specify the port on which this app should be able to listen to the requests from the client. I will use the listen method, and this listen method, the first argument will be the port at which the request will be listened. So I've specified here port number 301, and then we have a callback function where we specify what to do if the application starts listening to the request. We'll just display on the terminal the message, app is ready to listen to requests, and I'll put semicolon after this console.log. So the next thing I have to specify is I have to get the connection string. For connecting this page to the database, I need a connection string. So I'll create one constant variable, let's say connection string, and in this I will specify the connection string. Okay, and that connection string will have the name of the database and the username and the password for accessing that database. To get this connection string, we have to go to the MongoDB. In the MongoDB, if you remember, in our project, we made a student cluster, and inside the student cluster, if you just go to the overview and go to the connect option, and since I want my application to connect to the database, I will choose this option and I will choose drivers. So access your Atlas data. Atlas data means your MongoDB on the cloud. Access your Atlas data using MongoDB's native drivers. So I will choose this option, and since my server-side coding language is Node.js, so I will choose Node.js, and from here this is the connection string which will I take and customize for my use. So you can just click here to copy this connection string, and in this connection string paste this text. So this is my connection string. Okay, now in this connection string, if you remember, we gave the username admin. So our username is automatically attached in the string, but password we have to specify. So if you remember, when we created this database on the MongoDB, we gave the password admin 12345. So I specify the password here, and just after the slash and before the question mark, just write the name of your database. So if you see in your MongoDB, okay, in the student cluster, if you go to the collections, so you can see the name of our database is student DB, right? So I'll just copy this text from here, student DB, and I will put the name of the student DB here. So now my connection string is ready, and this connection string I am storing in the variable connection string. So wherever I have to use this connection string, I will just use this variable. Okay, so now the next step is to connect this page. Now for connecting to the page to the database, we will have to use Mongoose, and Mongoose has a method called connect. So in this, the parameters will be, I'll specify the connection string for connecting to the database, and if the connection is successful, then the then method will execute, and I will write the code. If I will write the code here, if the connection is established, and the catch method I will execute if the connection is not established because of any reason. So in the connect method, I will specify the connection string. So I'll just copy here and paste here. So Mongoose is trying to connect using this connection string. If the connection is established, then I will just display the message using the callback function console.log page connected to MongoDB database on cloud. So let me just, here I have a connect method, and in the catch, if the connection is not established. So here we have a callback function, and the parameter or the argument for this function will be the type of error that occurred. So you can write here something like error or the short error, and here I will play the error in the console could not connect to database, and the reason why it was not able to connect to the database, the error is already automatically the catch method will get that error, because there can be many reasons if you're not able to connect to the database. Maybe your database name is wrong, maybe your student model is wrong, maybe there is a internet network connectivity issue, there can be any number of reasons. So whatever the reason, it will be reported in this parameter ERR. So you just write ERR. So whatever the reason, that will be displayed here. So I'm just displaying a message, could not connect to the database, and then the reason for this will be automatically displayed here. So assuming that you connect to the database, the next step is now to create the API for receiving the data from the form and then pushing it to the database. So I will create the API. So since the name of my application is app, so I'll just use app dot post. Now if you remember our form student register, there we specified that the form data will go to the local host and at port number 3001, and the path will be add student. So we are getting this data, and what data we are getting? Student ID, student name, email, password, right? Since this method was sent using the post method, so therefore on the server side my my API is post. So the first parameter here will be the path in the URL. So I can just copy from here. The path is add student. I will just copy it here. Okay, slash path. So this basically means that if the path is slash add student, then what to do? So the second parameter for this method is callback function. Is the callback function has two parameters, the request and the response. So the request argument will have all the information related to the request which is coming, and the response parameter will be used to send the response back. So this callback function, so the arrow operator, the curly brace, and here I will write the code to receive the data from the form. So from the form, this string student ID brings the student ID, stud name brings the student name, email brings the email, and password brings the password, and department brings the department. Okay. In our index.js, if you want to access these values which are coming, let's say student ID, so I will request object, so req dot since the data is coming in the variables, use set variables, and not uh, as a part of URL, so we can use body request body and then name of the string which is bringing that data. So for student ID, the string which is bringing the ID is student stud ID. So this value I will assign to a variable here. So let's say const, I'll give it same name, student ID. So student ID, which is coming as a part of body of the request, has been assigned to a constant variable student ID on this page. The same way I will receive the other values, student name in this variable, request dot body dot password, request.body.password. So all these values are received, and now I'll create a student object based on the student model, and then that student data I will push it into the collection student infos. So let me create a student object in which I will store the data received from the form. So this is based on the student model which we created, and in the student model we specified the schema and the relationship of the schema with the collection. So since it is an object, so I'll have to put it in the curly brace, and here the key will be the name of the field in the collection. So in the model we specified that the key or the field of the collection student infos for student ID will be student ID column, and the value will be the value which we have stored in this JavaScript variable. So I kept the same names. So this is the name of the field. So student name field will get the value from the student name JavaScript variable. Email field will get value from the email JavaScript variable, and the password field will get the password from the password JavaScript variable, and the department field will get the department from the department JavaScript variable. So this student object which we have just created based on the data received from the form, this using this command await name of the object which we have just created with the data from the form, save this. Save means we will insert this data in the collections table. So where this data will be saved, since we are using the student object, And student object is based on the student model, and in the student model is mapped to the student infos table. So this data will be saved in the student infos collection, and then we can just write one statement assuming everything has gone well to inform the user that data has been inserted in the collection student infos. So assuming everything has gone well, so let me save my files, and so let me go to the terminal and let me go to my project folder and start the client side of my application. So npm start. Okay, click yes, no problem. Okay, so the client side is available now. I can click home, I can click on the form. Okay, but when I submit the form, the server should be ready to receive this form data and push it into the collection. So to start my server, I'll again go to my Visual Studio and I'll open a new terminal, and here I will go to my server folder. So first I'll go to the src folder, then I'll go to my server folder, and now using node or node mon I will start my server file index.js, which can receive the request and deal with the database on the server. So let me start this. So you can see here in this page, I specified that when the server starts listening, it should display the message in the console, server is ready to receive request. So you can see here, this message is being displayed here. That means the server is ready to receive the request. And while trying to connect to the MongoDB, I specified that if the connection is established, display the message in the terminal page connected to MongoDB database on client. So you can see here this message, page connected to MongoDB database on client. So the everything is working fine now. So let's try to push some data or enter some data through the form and push it into the collection student infos. So let me go to my form and let me push some. So let's say 706030, name Dr. Duhai, email Dr. Duhai, password 12345, and department information technology, and let's submit the form. And let's go and check in the MongoDB if the data has been successfully submitted or not. So I go here to the MongoDB, click on student infos and refresh this button to see the latest entries in the collection. So if you click refresh and go down, okay, so you can see here the student ID 70603, student name Dr. Duhai, email drduhai@utas.edu, password 1235, and your page is working fine. Thank you.